Okay, I'd like to call to order the Bedford Township Planning Commission regular meeting of August 24th, 2022. It is 7 o'clock p.m. I'd like to have everybody stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mr. Covret is absent this evening, so Jody, can you do the roll call?
Yes. Mr. Helm.
Here.
Mr. Swank.
Here.
Mr. Lampkowski. Here. Mr. Steiner. Mr. Fritz.
Yes.
And Mr. Covret is excused, and Mr. Mahoney.
Here. Okay, item 4, approval of the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to review the agenda? Is there any changes, deletions, additions?
Make a motion to approve the agenda submitted.
Support.
Okay, Mr. Fritz supports. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, approval of the minutes of July 13, 2022. Has everybody a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Is there okay with everybody? Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes of July 13th, 2022 meeting as presented.
Support.
Support from Mr. Fritz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, item 6, public comment. Is there anybody out in the audience that'd like to say something? You have 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 7, new business. Item A, request for a final site plan approval for Crab Road Investments, LLC, Bozell, North America, for a 28,414 square foot warehouse building addition located on parcel number 5802-035-001-10, otherwise known as 7177 Crab Road, Temperance, Michigan 48182. Ms. Rector.
Yes, again, the applicant is Crab Road Investments. The location is 7177 Crab Road, parcel number 5802-035-00110, I-1 Industrially Park Zoned. The owner is proposing a 28,414 square foot warehouse building addition to be attached to the west side of the existing 28,600 square foot factory with a 4,784 square foot office for a total of 61,798 square foot total structure, to include a parking lot expansion and storm detention system on a 13.15 acre parcel. The applicant has indicated on the site plan the addition will be utilized for the factory facility only. As shown on the site plan, there are 27 existing parking spaces to remain in 1 barrier-free parking space. To the rear of the new structure, an additional 39 parking spaces, including 2 additional barrier-free, thus a total of 66 parking spaces, which meets the requirements of the ordinance. Per ordinance, no parking landscaping is required. However, on sheet LA 100, there are a total of 5 additional plantings shown to be installed, and it is noted that all existing trees will remain unless otherwise noted. Also noted is the existing grassy area to remain. Sheet L201 shows a total of 6 additional lights 20 feet in height. It shall be noted that all lighting must be directed downward, and the shown photometric calculations meet the requirements of the ordinance. As noted on the plan LA 100, there are 2 proposed 10 by 70 loading spaces, which will be used for truck wells. The Fire Department reviewed and approved the site plan on 8/16/2022. Monroe County Drain Commission reviewed and approved the site plan with comments on 8/2 of 2022. The Monroe County Drain Commission, in regards to soil erosion and sedimentation control, reviewed and approved the site plan with comments on 8/8 of 2022. The Handicapped Group and reviewed and approved with comments on 8/12 of 2022, and the Monroe County Road Commission via an email dated 8/15/2022 has no comments, as there's no work at this time being done in the road right-of-way. Should site plan approval be granted, a motion should include the approval shall be contingent upon addressing all comments and conditions the Bedford Township Fire Department, Handicapped Group, the Monroe County Drain Commission letters of approval.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody here representing Bozell? You want to step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record?
Sure. My name is Herb Blackstock. I'm with Blackstock Alexander Associates. I'm the architect. Address is 70 Macomb Place, Suite 220, Mount Clemens, Michigan.
Jody, could you make sure that mic is on first?
Green light's on.
Okay. Just didn't sound like it.
Oh.
Thank you.
70 Macomb Place, Suite 220, Mount Clemens, Michigan, 48043.
Anything to add from what Ms. Rector?
Nope, Ms. Rector did a wonderful job summarizing our project. At this point, we have no issues with any of the comments that were made in meeting those. Actually, I submitted cut sheets for the lights, which was one of the items from Manic Smith. I'm not sure why they didn't receive them. I have another set if you'd like them.
I have them. They were just
Okay.
after the information was already submitted, but I do have the light sheets.
Okay.
Thank you.
As for parking spaces, we show the handicap parking spaces. I'm not sure why we need to call out where the signs are, but the signs are detailed and shown. Our civil engineer is working through the 2 grading issues that had to do with minimal slopes. One of them, though, is actually, from my understanding, on an existing piece of the existing parking lot. It's to the east of the old truck dock, which we're abandoning and we're filling in. We're not proposing to do anything to that area, so it's an existing condition. But we'll address the other issue. It has to do with one of the new catch basins that we're installing. So, but other than that, we have no issues with meeting any of those requirements.
Okay.
We'll submit those in our final permit set within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Anybody have any questions? Mr. Steiner?
Just comments. First off, I agree, Jody did a nice job there. At first, I wasn't sure if it was speed reading or foreign language she was reading there. Good job, Jody. No. One of the things I'm just reading through all the comments and everything, and it seems like you've addressed all the open items, and a couple things here shows that you've exceeded the requirements, such as adding some extra plantings, things like that.
Yes.
So
a few trees are on the park.
it's nice to know, and you're not only meeting, but you're exceeding what's required. And I've got to commend, you're doubling the size of this facility, and you've only been there, how many years now? 5, maybe?
I'm not sure the history of Bozell, but I believe they may have been in there a little bit longer. I know they've been in that facility
Give
a
or
while,
take,
so.
but yeah, I mean, such a short period to double the size of this facility, that just speaks to being successful. So that's a good thing, and also keeping that business in Bedford Township when they could have looked elsewhere for a larger property. But through the undertaking here, again, all the documentation seems to be in order. I think you mentioned the grade. I think that was a fire department comment on the 1% grade, was it? Is that
It was actually through the township's engineer in
Okay.
reviewing it. So we've got to address it. I know it's, according to my civil engineer, it's a minor issue, and I know they've been going back and forth with that. The issue is the site is almost perfectly flat. It's
Yeah, no, it's
very
pretty flat
hard to
over
make
there.
that grade and actually work that into the existing retention, which is the issue. It was mostly that existing, the retention is existing. We have to modify it, but to meet those grades, that's what they're having a difficulty, and we're not missing it by much. It's a minor
Yeah.
slope difference. So
There might have been one of the other packets might have mentioned the fire, but I did see that you had the grading issue. But Marty, I mean, the site is existing and it doesn't meet that grading. Is it upon them to, if they're not changing that parking area?
I think he mentioned that they were abandoning the truck well,
But he's
which is a change.
right.
So they should do their best to meet the grade, since they're making changes in that area.
They're banning the truck well there, but
And that's where one of the grade problems are. And that's, I think, where they're having the discussion about.
okay.
yeah, he said the issue is some pavement areas remain deficient, slope of 1%. These areas include areas west of CB1 and the area east of the former truck well. So it's actually the area east of what we're filling in.
Okay.
Is my understanding of it.
Mr. Chair, and I would just like to make a comment, not on this particular site, but other sites that any work has been done. We've been trying to bring them all into compliance with the requirements of the ordinance because some of the sites haven't had work done on them for many, many years. Even some don't even have detention, but now they're being required. So I think that that's where that comment is coming from Manning & Smith.
Okay.
Okay, that's
Anything
all
else?
for me.
Anything else from anybody else? Is there a motion on the floor?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the final site plan for Bozell. Let's see, where's my right address? At 7177 Crab Road, parcel number 5802-035-00-10. Whereas the applicant is meeting all the requirements as established by the Planning Commission and ordinances. Also that they will meet any comments by the current Bedford Township Fire Department, Monroe County Drain Commission. Also, the Monroe County Drain Commission finalized on the soil erosion sedimentation control. The Manick-Smith Group review, and the Monroe County Road Commission has no comments, so nothing there. So those are all the contingencies to make sure all those T's are crossed, I's are dotted through all those agencies.
Second.
All right, Mr. Lemkowski seconds. Ms. Rector, can you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mr. Lampkowski.
Aye.
Mr. Swank.
Aye.
Mr. Helm.
Aye.
Mr. Fritz.
Aye.
Mr. Mahoney.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, moving on item B, request for final site plan approval to an amended PUD for Lock It Up self-storage, previously Erie Shore self-storage, for an office building on parcel number 5802-026-070-00, otherwise known as 100 West Stearns, Temperance, Michigan 48182. Ms. Rector?
I'll read a little slower this time.
It was fine. You just, if you can do that without stumbling, that's great.
Again, the applicant is Lock It Up, 7150 West Central Avenue, and the location is 100 West Stearns Road, Temperance, Michigan. Current zoning is PUD, Planned Unit Development, with the underlining of Ag Agricultural. I-1 Planned Industrial Park, 5802-026-07000 on approximately a 20-acre parcel. On May 25th, 2022, the Planning Commission made a determination that at that time, the proposed request to demo the existing office building and develop a new building was a minor amendment to the PUD, below the listed requirements for the approval. Completing a site plan approval process by submitting an amended site plan to all reviewing agencies for review and approval to the Road Commission, Drain Commission, Manning-Smith, Bedford Township Fire Department, and the Bedford Township Planning Department to be presented to the Planning Commission, which is on the agenda tonight. The PUD agreement and exhibits to be amended and recorded include the screenings required on the original approved landscaping, installation of the parking area and the ADA ramp to be located outside the enclosed fenced area and to be landscaped in accordance with the ordinance requirements, relocation of the existing fence to enclose the proposed building with the building serving to enclose the remainder of the area, the building permit for demo of the existing building and construction of the new building subject to the Planning Commission decision on the site plan, provide dimensions for the proposed building on the site plan, and all documents be submitted and reviewed by the Township Attorney and the Manick-Smith Group and be recorded. The subject site consists of approximately 20 acres and was developed within a PUD Planned Unit Development to allow for 9 mini warehouse buildings comprising of 67,444 square feet of self-storage space and 1 office building, which may also be used for a residency on-site property manager, with all said buildings to be only located within the 5.64 acre portion of the PUD property. The remainder of the property, 14.36 acres, is to be kept open with no structures to be placed thereon and is to be used for growing of crops, open space, a park, or natural area. There are 7 developed mini warehouses on site with an existing office building and residency for an on-site manager. The owner is proposing an 840 square foot office building to include a parking lot expansion on all located within the 5.64 acre portion of the property. As approved on the May 25th, 2022 for the amended PUD, the fence will be relocated and will enclose up to the proposed building with the remainder of the perimeter of the property to be enclosed as defined in the PUD agreement, excluding the parking area. The submitted amended PUD plan shows the original landscaping requirements as required by the May 25th, 22 Planning Commission's approval and shall be installed to the original recorded PUD agreement. At this time, no additional lighting is shown on the plan. However, should any lighting be installed, it shall be submitted, reviewed, and approved by the Planning Department for ordinance compliance. The Fire Department reviewed and approved the site plan with comments and conditions on 8/16/2022. The Monroe County Drain Commission reviewed the approved at the site plan with comments on 8/8 of 2022. The applicant has worked with the Drain Commission, and I did receive an updated letter regarding soil erosion and sedimentation control for approval with comments. The Handicapped Smith Group approved the site plan with comments and conditions on 8/18 of 2022, and the Road Commission via email on 7/13/22 has no comments as there's no work being done within the road right-of-way. Should site plan approval be granted, a motion should include that the approval should be contingent upon addressing all comments and conditions of the Bedford Township Fire Department, the Handicapped Smith Group, the Monroe County Drain Commission letters of approval, and the Monroe County Drain Commission in regards to soil erosion and sedimentation control, to amend the PUD agreement and exhibits and submit to the Planning Department to be reviewed and approved by the Township Attorney and the Handicapped Smith Group, and all documents to then be recorded.
Okay, thank you. Representatives for Lock It Up Self-Storage?
Yes. Kip Van Tassel, the Van Tassel Construction, 7617 Stearns Road, Ottawa Lake, Michigan, and Brian Bettinger from Van Tassel Construction.
Okay, one thing I need to advise you on, one board member short tonight. Do you want us to proceed with a vote?
Yes,
Okay. Do you want to add anything that Ms. Rector described?
I don't.
Anybody have any questions? I have a question, and it's pretty simple. Can you come over here and look at this drawing? I just want to be clear where the fence lines are going to be. Is it where I drew the red? So this isn't the existing one?
No, that's the edge of pavement right there.
Okay.
And then this is correct here. This is, yeah, the existing fence is actually right here. So it's close, but there's an existing gate located here now. So basically, we're just connecting just this little bit right here.
Okay. Thanks. And regarding lighting, is the parking lot going to be lit?
I'd have to verify I didn't bring the electrical drawing. There may be a wall pack on the building.
That'd be probably adequate. I mean, I don't. What are your hours roughly going to be?
I think they open at 9 a.m. and what time they close.
I don't,
I
but
don't know what time they close.
Yeah, you guys need to speak in the microphone.
we don't know what time they close.
Okay.
But it's usually a normal, working hour during the day, and people have access through the gate if they're, if they have a rented space.
Should parking lots be lit?
We don't require them to have parking lot poles within the parking lot.
Or on the
How-
wall building?
If they put wall packs on, they will need to submit a rendering at least to the planning department to make sure with the illumination plan, because there are requirements at the property line for the off-site glare. They have to be directed downward, and they cannot be, I believe, because it's agricultural, it's 0.5 at the property line. But it's nothing that they can't work with the planning department on.
Okay, good. Anybody else?
Nope.
Is there a motion on the floor to accept the site plan?
I'll make a motion. Let me try this out.
Please.
You make a motion for final site plan approval to amend a PUD for lock-it-up self-storage, which is parcel number 5802-026-070-00, contingent on that they address all comments and conditions of the Bedford Township Fire Department, MSG, and MCDC letters of approval, receive an approval from MCDC in regards to soil erosion sedimentation control, to amend the PUD agreement and exhibits, submit to the Planning Department to be reviewed and approved by the Township Attorney and the Manikin Smith Group, and all documents to be recorded.
Ms. Rector?
And I would just request if there are any lighting that it must be submitted through the Planning Department for review and approval.
And any lighting to be submitted to the Planning Department for approval.
Okay, is there support for the motion?
Support.
Mr. Fritz supports. Ms. Rector, can you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Lampkowski.
Aye.
Mr. Fritz.
Yes.
Mr. Helm.
Aye.
Mr. Swank.
Aye.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mr. Mahoney.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Item C, this is going on too long. Can we just postpone? No.
You trying to beat last night's meeting?
Okay, item C, open the public hearing regarding, so I'm going to open up the public hearing. Ms. Rector, do you want to talk about this item C?
Yes, the applicant is Sherry and John LaFontaine. The representative is going to be Sherry LaFontaine, 2695 Thunderbird in Lambertville, Michigan, 5802-640-01100, R2B single-family residentially zone. The subject site consists of approximately 0.305 acres with 100 feet of frontage on Thunderbird, located within Thunderbird Trail subdivision, Lot 11. The property to the west, north, and east are all also located within the subdivision, and the property to the south is zoned R2B single-family residential. Per section 41924, home occupations. And I'm going to read over all this because it's something new for the public.
Real quick,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney said public hearing, but shouldn't we have a motion to open? An official motion to open, and close the public hearing, and then?
Parliamentary-wise, we need to have a public hearing, and when you need to have things like public hearings, I hate to see a motion fail. So generally, the chairman just opens those, and I believe that's what the bylaws of the Planning Commission also state, that the chairman will open a public hearing, and when public hearing is completed, also can close the public hearing without motions.
Per section 41924, home occupations. Home occupations will qualify as an accessory use incident to the dwelling unit under the following conditions. The following are permitted home occupations provided they comply with the general conditions of section 41924.3. Dressmaking and sewing and tailoring, painting, sculpting and writing, telephone answering, home crafts such as model making, rug weaving, ceramics and cabinet making, tutoring limited to 2 students at a time, home cooking and preserving, computer programming, typing, ironing and laundry, income tax assistance and minor bookkeeping, instruction in craft or fine art, family daycare homes with and complying with all regulations of Michigan Department of Social Services, but no more than 6 children, architectural drafting, engineering, and similar professional work, but not medical, chiropractic, dental, or optical professional work, home sales and distribution, such as Avon and Amway, that involve door-to-door sales of consumer goods sold at retail, but do not include sales at the dwelling unit or any on-site storage other than minimum inventory. Catering, so as long no food is served at the dwelling unit where it is prepared. Gunsmithing, defined as making of repairing of firearms, but not the storing, keeping, buying, or selling of firearms or ammunition except as an occasional incident and minor occurrence as part of the gunsmithing. I'm going to just briefly touch on Q, a registered primary caregiver qualified under the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. And then, moving on, The applicant is requesting a review and approval from the Planning Commission to allow for a dog matchmaking service as a home occupation, as in her opinion, it is similar in nature to the listed home occupations by ordinance. As the proposed use is not specifically listed per section 419.24 home occupation number 2 states, generally any proposed home occupation that is not specifically permitted by section 419.24.1 is not allowed. Nevertheless, an applicant may request that a proposed home occupation that is not specifically permitted by section 419.24.1, but which is similar in nature, be allowed as a use subject to special approval. A special approval use may only be granted according to the following requirements. The proposed home occupation may be permitted only after a public hearing, review, and approval of the use and a site plan by the Planning Commission, and under such conditions as the Planning Commission imposes after finding that the use is not injurious to the district and injurious, is not contrary to the spirit and purpose of this ordinance, it is not compatible with already existing uses in the area, would not interfere with orderly development of the area, and would not be detrimental to the safety or convenience of vehicular or pedestrian traffic, and complies with the general conditions of 419.24.3. The site plan need not be formal, complying with the section 1913. A simple plot plan and a letter describing the proposed use, portion of the dwelling devoted to the home occupation use, and which shows the lot identification, lot of size, dimensions of lot lines, existing improvements, location of structures on adjacent lots with 100 feet of the lot, abutting roads, streets, and alleys, and the driveways shall be sufficient. As required by ordinance, the applicant has submitted a plot plan and letter explaining the dog matchmaking process and identifying the location area for the puppies within the kitchen with the tile flooring, and all in a small area in the living room. The applicant has noted playtime is done in the kitchen and the puppies sleep in the living room, either in a crate or in a dog bed, being barricaded from the carpeted areas within an indoor doggy fence. The applicant noted the backyard is fenced in and is utilized for play area and for her clients to see the puppies in action. The applicant has supplied 5 letters of no objection to the requests, and we did include a map, a business card with a 2-sided flyer, pictures of new puppy owners she's worked with, and information on her business, providing filing endorsements with the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, an email being accredited from the Better Business Bureau, and includes an article supplied from the Better Business Bureau dated September 17th on puppy scams. As required by ordinance, the Commission shall confirm all general conditions within section 419.24.3 are in compliance with the proposed home occupation. Letters A through O should be individually discussed for compliance. The following general conditions shall apply to all home occupations, whether permitted or allowed by a special approval use. A home occupation shall not change the character of the residential nature of the lot, both in terms of use and appearance. A home occupation use shall not endanger the health, safety, and welfare or enjoyment of any other persons in the area by reason of noise, vibration, glares, fumes, odor, unsanitary or unsightly condition, fire hazards, or the like, involved in or resulting from such a home occupation. A home occupation shall not be a nuisance. A home occupation shall not generate sewage or water use in excess of normal in a residential area. A home occupation must be clearly incidental and secondary to the primary use of the dwelling unit for dwelling purposes. A home occupation shall not be located in a dwelling unit in any other area than residential or agricultural, except one registered primary giver under the Medical Marijuana Act, Michigan Law of 2008. May be located in a dwelling in any zoning district where the dwelling unit lawfully exists and when the registered primary caregiver is a permanent occupant of that dwelling. Only one home occupation and dwelling unit may be permitted at one time. No employee shall be permitted either gratuitously or for compensation of any kind other than members of the immediate family residing in the dwelling unit. All activities shall be carried on inside the dwelling unit, and no activities or storage shall be permitted outside the dwelling unit or in an accessory building except under the Medical Marijuana Act. And I'm going to skip all the rest of that I because it does pertain back to the medical marijuana. No article or service sold or offered for sale shall be permitted except as such produced by the home occupation except for uses authorized under 1924.1. There shall be no internal or external alterations, additions, or changes to or special construction features placed in or about the dwelling unit to accommodate or facilitate the home occupation. For home occupations other than a registered primary caregiver under the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, there are no outside displays of any kind and no change in the outside appearance of the dwelling unit or structure of the housing dwelling unit or other external or visible evidence that the of the conduct of the home occupation, except for one non-illuminated nameplate sign containing only the name, address, and occupation of the resident of the dwelling, not more than 2 square feet in area, which shall be mounted flat against the wall for the dwelling unit or structure housing the dwelling unit. And then it talks about medical marijuana.
More marijuana.
For home occupations other than registered primary caregivers, no more than 20% of the floor area of the dwelling unit shall be utilized for such home occupation. For home occupations other than the registered primary caregiver, no equipment or process shall be used in such home which creates noise, vibration, glares, fumes, odors, or electrical interference detected to the normal human sense off the parcel if the home occupation is conducted in one family dwelling or outside the dwelling unit if conducted in a dwelling unit that is other than one family. There shall be no more than 2 customer vehicles generated by the home occupation on any lot at any time. There shall be no special business vehicles generated by the home occupation permitted on the lot at any time, and all parking generated by the home occupation must be provided on the lot and off the street or road. The Commission should make a determination on all requirements of the ordinance, Section 41924.3, in regards to home occupation, especially that all uses of the requested home occupation must be within the dwelling unit, as the intent of a home occupation is to be within the dwelling unit, and there shall be no internal or external alterations, additions, or changes to, or special construction features placed in, on, or about the dwelling unit to accommodate or facilitate the home occupation. The Planning Commission shall, per ordinance, and must include in any motion to approve, first, determine that the proposed occupation of a dog matchmaking service that is not specifically permitted by Section 41924.1 is similar in nature to those listed. Second, the proposed use is not injurious to the district and inverse is not contrary to the spirit and purpose of this ordinance. It is not incompatible with already existing uses in the area, would not interfere with orderly development of the area, would not be detrimental to the safety or convenience of vehicular or pedestrian traffic. And once those determinations are made by the Commission, the Planning Commission should continue to discuss the proposed use and include in any motion to approve the proposed dog matchmaking service that the home occupation shall comply with all of the requirements of 41924.3 as stated in the ordinance and any and all conditions the Planning Commission further imposes.
Thank you. We'll take a 15-minute recess. Jody can catch her breath.
Jody, I missed that second section. Could you repeat it?
And just for the record for the applicant, that all the packet information and the email responses that we have were supplied to all the commission members, just so you're aware. Everything that you provided to me has been included in the packet. So if you refer to something, they do have it.
Okay, good.
Are you the representative for Dream Dog Matchmaking?
I am.
And can you give us your name and address for the record?
Sure. I'm Sherry LaFontaine, and I live at 2695 Thunderbird Trail in Lambertville, Michigan.
And I just want to let you know we are one board member short tonight. Do you want to proceed with a vote later on?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to add anything to what Ms. Rector read to us?
Yes. I started this last October, and it's a side business. I'm a full-time marketing manager for Friends of the Family Home Health Care. And I also am a gospel singer. I was on the latest Gaither video that's coming out, and so I have CDs to prove it, everything. But
Shameless.
I know, right? Self-promotion. But anyway, I needed something on the side to do because the lack of caregivers and the lack of staff has caused me to not be able to get as many clients. If I got clients, I got the bonuses, and that has stopped at work. So I need to do this on the side or do something on the side. I did not wake up some morning and just say I want to be a doggy matchmaker, but I do love animals. I'm passionate about music. I'm passionate about animals and dogs, and it just kind of fell in my lap. And so it kind of happened. I found somebody online that was looking for a certain dog, and I had just went through the dog process the process of trying to find my own Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. And so that's how it all began. But let me read this a little bit here, just so you know what doggy matchmaking is, because usually if you're not from California or New York, you don't know what it is. And I didn't know what it was, but I began doing it without even knowing what I was. So So let me give you a little bit of a rundown.
I'll just remind you, too, you have 5 minutes total.
Okay. All right. I will do this very quickly. Okay. So basically, let me give you the latest dog matchmaking story so you have that. I have a client in Tulsa that found me on Facebook. She is the girlfriend of a Grammy Award-winning producer. She wanted a male Cavachon with Blenheim and white, and I traveled, that traveled well in the car, everything. I learned of a breeder. I've done my research and I vet the breeders very extensively. I have a lady who works for the government as a kennel inspector. She gives me the best tips for the best breeders. And I go to those breeders and I find the dog that they're looking for. This past Saturday, I flew out to Tulsa to deliver that puppy. This puppy came from the upper part of Kentucky, and great breeders. And so while I was there, a lot of times when I'm there, I say I have a list of people that are wanting a small dog that doesn't shed. It's impossible to find certain breeds in this area. It's impossible. And I don't have anything against pit bulls. Some of my best friends are pit bulls, okay? But it is impossible to find certain breeds, a small frou-frou dog to sit on somebody's lap. It's impossible to find. So I'm helping the community find that. Most of my clients are from Bedford Township, Sylvania, Perrysburg, from this area. But this was a special case. So when I bought that dog for that lady, I asked the breeder, I said, how much for all 5 of the puppies? This is what I do. He gives me a deal for all 5 of the puppies. So I wait till they're about 10 weeks so I know the nature of the puppy. That's when their character starts coming out, so that I can get to know them within the 3 to 5 days that I have them at my house. I get to know their characteristics very well so that I'm able to place them with just the right family. I don't want a returned puppy. I want them to be happy. So I'll find a dog that's better to sit on an old lady's lap, and they love it. And I have an old lady that lives with me. That's how I know, my mom, whose phone is ringing right now. So when my dad died, my mom moved in with me. And so anyway, but we are, okay, so back to this story. Before I came home with the 5 puppies, I had already had 3 of them sold. I use my marketing ability to let people know that I have these available, and I come home and they found homes, and it's working out really well to do that. So anyway, long story short, this is what I've been doing since last October. I haven't had any complaints from the neighbors. Everybody's happy with it. But with your permission, I would like to continue to do it. It's very small. I do 8 matches a month because that's all I have time to do. Okay. 5 or 6 of those are the scenario that I told you about, where I have the puppies in my home for just 3 to 5 days in that month time. The other matches are done with me connecting people directly to the rescues. I don't bring the rescues in my home. I let the rescues connect with the client that's looking for that dog. I don't get any commission off of that. That's just pro bono. I don't get any commission off of rehoming a dog. If someone has a dog, they need to rehome it. I don't get any commission off of that. I do that. So those are the matches that we make. But the other dogs that I have there are treated like gold. Before they leave my house, they're very healthy. Dr. Pollins at Temperance Animal Hospital has seen all of my pets, and he is amazing. He works with me, and we make sure they're happy, healthy. We socialize them. We have the neighbors come over and see with them and play with them with their grandkids. We check how they are with kids. We check how they are with kids with allergies. We check all of that before they go into the home so that we really do our research.
Are you about to wrap it up?
I am about to wrap it up. That's what I was going to say. But I am with the Better Business Bureau, and I have full great reviews from them, which is wonderful. One of the #1 scams in America right now are puppy scams. And it's because people can't find the dog they're looking for, and they're looking online when they can just come locally and find someone. This is a part-time job. This will be a part-time job. I'm caregiver to my mom. I am marketing manager, and I sing a little bit. But.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak? You wait to go to the podium and state your name and address, and you've got 3 minutes.
My My name's Ken Kite, K-I-G-H-T. I live across the street at 2710. Is that all you need? Okay. Anyway, on Thunderbird, I guarantee you there's at least 3/4 of the people got dogs there. I got 2 pit bulls on one side and rescue dogs on the other. Since they came into the neighborhood, no problems, no nothing. Super people, great asset to the neighborhood, really. I went over and done some work for them, made fences and made sure, no way them dogs can get out of that house or whatever, and they're real happy with that. But I don't have any problem with it at all. They do a super job. Nobody takes care of dogs better than she does, And even had the Monroe County come out, dog warden, a lady, and she walked in there and couldn't believe how nice it was. She says, out of all the times I went anywhere, I've never seen any place as nice as this place is, with the sink and all the stuff in there and everything. So, yeah, she does a heck of a job. She's fair. That's about all I can say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that'd like to speak? State your name and address.
Yeah.
And you've got
Charles
3 minutes.
Orton, and I'm at 2678 Thunderbird. So we live pretty much across the street from Sherry. Quite honestly, I wouldn't have known any of that was going on over there. I went over to help her out, and I found, there was puppies over there, quiet. We don't hear anything. No traffic from her business or anything like that. Occasional car for the future owners. As far as I know, no other issues. She keeps real good care of those puppies. She treats her like they're her own. My grandkids were the ones that went over and visited. We go over, sometimes help her out and watch puppy sit for her. But, yeah, she does a very good job at making sure the prospective owners are aware of what they're getting into with a certain breed that they choose. And if she feels it's not a good match, she'll advise them so. So, like she said, she doesn't want a puppy return, so she does everything in her power ahead of time to try to make a good match. It's a great service because she's basically taking these puppies off the hands of breeders that are obviously having problems getting rid of the dogs. And I don't know what their future would be if it wasn't for her to be able to bring them back here and get them to somebody. So.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to say anything? Should we make a motion to close the public hearing right now?
You can make that motion.
I'll move that we close the public hearing. Is there support?
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Is there any regulatory agency that oversees what you do, any kind of rules, regulations at all?
No, not really. Honestly, there's nothing like that.
So you don't have to report to animal control or
no,
the
animal
USDA
control, yes.
or anything like that?
I'm sorry. I just spoke with them recently.
Okay.
And if it is considered a kennel, which it will probably be, I just will need a total of 6 license, she told me, and that shouldn't be a problem at all. And I can keep those license and just swap them out, make sure that there's a number to each puppy. She also said I need to keep a logbook of their health every day, which I started doing that as soon as she told me. So I know what's going on. If the puppy's health changes or anything, I can alert the owners and things. But pretty much that's it. They can come and do an inspection at any time. I made that very clear to them. And so, but basically, yeah.
So
I am accountable to them.
They put a limit on you of 6. That's the most you can have.
No, they didn't put a limit on me of 6. I put that limit on myself.
I was going to suggest that we should have some kind of a limit in this.
I'm okay with that.
Neighbors may be fine with 2 or 3 dogs, but if it turned into 20, they may not feel the same way about it. So
my mom would have a problem with that too. I'm pretty sure.
Have you read Ordinance 400.1924?
I have. Yes, sir.
And if there's, I guess, one spot in there, one really important thing is it's item C, a home occupation shall not be a nuisance.
Yes.
And a nuisance can be a neighbor who suddenly is not fond of having the dogs.
Yes.
You're aware of that. So they
I
can
am.
come and complain, and you'd have to be subject to whatever the township board feels
Yes.
is right to rectify the situation, right?
Yes.
And I thought I read somewhere in the packet that you'd have 3 to 5 dogs at any one time.
Yes. No more than that. Hmm.
So I agree with you. If we could put a limit on the number of
That's fine,
puppies,
yes.
that might be a good thing.
That's good.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Mr. Fritz?
How many employees will you have? Any employees?
I don't have any employees. It's just me and my
How
mom.
long will the puppies be by themselves?
The puppies are never by themselves. My mom is home all the time with her caregiver, which is Jessica. She's wonderful. She loves the puppies. She loves on them. The only time that they are alone about 3 hours on a Sunday morning when we go to church. If we're going to be later than that, then I call Jake or I call Ken or somebody. And I have the best neighbors in the world. They help me with Mom. They help me with so much. So thankful for them. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Steiner?
So, as Mr. Mahoney stated, talking about nuisance. Nuisance could be anything to anybody.
Yes.
You could have perfect neighbors today, and tomorrow somebody moves in,
I agree.
and they think it's a nuisance, even though it may not be. The one thing that I do want to point out too, and it sounds to me, of course, that you take extremely good care. I don't think this is ever going to be a problem with you. But one of the things that you have to be careful of, it does talk about odors. So any kind of dog excrement, things like that, you've got to be cognizant about that. So again, I'm sure you probably take care of that
6
very
a.m.
well.
every morning, you'll see me out doing the pooper scooper thing.
But
I have to do that for the health of the dogs as well. If I have new
Exactly.
puppies coming in, if there's anything in their fecal, I have to make sure that that's taken care of. That's a high priority.
because
So,
it can
yes.
be parasitic and things like that too.
Yes.
But yes,
Mhm.
definitely. And of course, some dogs, they get that temper going, and dogs eat stuff that they shouldn't be eating too.
Puppies
That's not a good
especially.
thing.
I understand. Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, it's part of the ordinance, and I would just say that if this does get approved, maybe it's just a general comment in that, that the property must be cleaned on a regular basis to prevent, any kind of odors or dog excrement being left, piling up
Yes.
in the lawn, et cetera. The only other thing that I'm looking at too is it talks about parking, no more than 2 customer vehicles, and again, with that kind of business, I don't think you're going to have,
No.
maybe 2 individuals have to show up because one's working and the other one comes later.
All right.
I guess the only thing is to make sure, because it already says must not be on the street or road.
Right.
So parking on a paved surface, do you have a paved driveway or
I do.
stone or?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, so a paved driveway. I think we could stipulate that because you don't want people parking in yards, because once you start getting off into grass, I know people park in the grass all the time, but again, you could have, drainage or oil or leak and things like that. So,
Right,
Mr.
okay.
Camperth, could that be a stipulation too, that it must be parked on the paved surface?
I believe the ordinance itself talks about not parking on the street. Now, whether or not what you're referring to probably is you can't park in the yard.
Right, because this just says it has to be parked on the lot.
Yes. No, you can impose additional conditions above and beyond what the
Okay,
ordinance
just wanted to
requires.
make sure.
So yes, you can do that.
I thought so, but I wanted to make sure I was not going off on a stray path. So those are the only 2 things that I'm looking at. Again, you've already stated, it's been stated here, 6 puppies. This sounds to me like
Yeah.
animal control. Did I hear you right? So you would actually go out and buy 6 licenses and you just transfer from dog to dog?
I
Is that
do.
right?
I make sure there's a number that transfers to each puppy as it comes in, or dog, whatever I have.
Okay, so that therein lies your logbook where,
Yes.
puppy Buck has to get a license. He goes and,
Right.
and goes to a new home. Then it comes Mary. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And they're all usually microchipped as well, so they all have a number in the system if they should get out of
Okay.
the fence, which Ken's made sure that that's not going to happen. But if anything like that should happen, I can find them. So.
Okay, and I guess, and probably the only other thing, if you've already, one of your neighbors has come over and taken care of, helping you with your fences, but just to make sure that it's stated in there that that enclosure must be maintained, prevent any escape of the dogs, things like that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I drove by there and it looked like 6-foot dog-eared fence. Is that right? And is it finished? It looked like it was in progress.
It is in, okay, so Mom wanted a white picket fence. We just put that up. And so, but yeah, it's pretty much done. It's pretty much done. He put yeah, so, and then the other thing that animal control said is that they like that there's 2 fences between the road and the dogs, and we always have that. So unless I'm out there supervising them to run around the big area, they are always, they're guarded by 2 fences. So that they can't, they have a double barrier there. So, yep.
I really appreciate the work you did to get your neighbors on board and
Thank you.
present to us that you've done a little bit of homework, and you seem very genuine and sincere about what you're doing and considerate, and you're a neighbor first, and that's what I get from you when you
Well, I love
this together.
this township. I love where I am. I don't want to mess anything up. We love Lambertville. So.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody have any other questions? If you step up to the microphone and you keep it brief.
I follow their driveway and stuff. You can get at least 4 cars off the
Okay.
side when you go in their driveway. There is no parking issue. Really. Nobody ever parks on it.
Okay. So we have to first determine that the proposed home occupation of a dog matchmaking service that is not specifically permitted is similar in nature to what is described in this ordinance. Does anybody have any comments about that? To me, it seems like an innocuous operation. And she's crossed her T's, dotted her I's with the neighbors, which I think would be the most important consideration. Ms. Rector?
I would just like to request that each of those have a motion and that we have support of why we're providing those, as this is something that we want to make sure that we don't set a precedent that each person could come in for a home occupation, of why we're presenting this if that's so desired.
Yeah, and it's a good point, and the ordinance leaves it open for us to allow different things that they couldn't have anticipated. Whoever thought there'd be a dog matchmaking service
Same. I feel the same way.
when they wrote this ordinance. So, anybody else have any other comments about the first item? Do we want to make a motion that this is similar in nature to what was intended in section 1924.1?
I'll make a motion that this home occupation of a dog matchmaking service that is not specifically permitted by section 1924.1 is similar in nature. Is it as simple as that, Jody?
And your reason behind it.
And my reason behind it.
I'll add a friendly amendment that it's low traffic, innocuous, low key. I don't know how else to put it, as a seamstress would be, or a tax service. Anyone want to add anything? Okay, is there support?
Support.
Who was that? Fred? Okay, Ms. Rector, do you want to call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Lampkowski,
Aye.
Mr. Swank,
Aye.
Mr. Helm, Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Fritz,
Aye.
Mr. Mahoney.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank
Thank you very much.
Second item, that the proposed use is not injurious to the district and environs, is not contrary to the spirit and purpose of this ordinance, it is not incompatible with already existing uses in the area, would not interfere with orderly development of the area, would not be detrimental to the safety and convenience of vehicular and pedestrian traffic. Ordinance must include in any motion. Okay. Does anybody want to put that into a motion?
I'll make the motion that the business use is, that being proposed is definitely not injurious to the district. It's not contrary to the spirit and purpose of the ordinance. It will follow the ordinance with any stipulations that may be further noted by the Planning Commission. area is already fully developed, so there should not be any additional development. But the only development would be is if a house were taken down and reconstructed. So there's no detriment there. There's no detriment to any traffic, whether vehicular or pedestrian, due to the nature of this business, will be extremely low with any kind of traffic volume, ingress or egress. And I don't believe that having the dogs that are not continued to be fully housed as a full-blown kennel operation, that is not going to take place. So the dogs will be coming and going in very short periods of time. And just to mention that many of us are dog owners ourselves, so it's not going to be too much different than if she has her maximum number of dogs allowed as a personal pet. So it's very similar in nature for the amount of animals.
Is there support?
I'll support.
Okay, Mr. Helm supports. Ms. Rector, call the roll.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mr. Helm.
Aye.
Mr. Swank.
Aye.
Mr. Lampkowski.
Aye.
Mr. Fritz.
Aye.
Mr. Mahoney.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, so we've made the determination that these do fit within the scope of the ordinance. Now, I think at this point we have to make a specific listing of dog matching as a business allowed by the ordinance, and the maximum number of dogs should be stated here.
Yes, and any other conditions that you want to impose?
Okay. Are there any other conditions we want to impose?
I just have a question.
Go ahead.
I just have a question. Now, if you do have a doggy return,
Yes.
what is that process?
I've had that happen twice.
Okay.
Okay, so I keep their initial deposit of $300 or $500. Only if it's returned for health reasons do they get the full amount back. This lady got the puppy the next day. Her daughter was in a serious accident in Phoenix, and she had to fly out and take care of her. I took him right back. It was no problem. He was gone the next day to a lovely mailman in our area. And so it's I make sure that that there's a good reason for the return. But the other return was for a family that had a 2-year-old that was not potty trained, and the puppy was not potty trained, and she'd never owned a dog. And I made it very clear to her what was going on and everything, but she just couldn't. Her husband was gone a lot. She just couldn't handle it, and that was no problem at all. I found her a home as well, but yes.
But if they're returned, there's not a long-term care. They're pretty much turned around and moved shortly thereafter.
My marketing ability, I target dog owners. I target those who can afford the training, all of that. I really specifically target who I'm marketing to for these pets. So,
Thank you.
If I may, I went on your Facebook site.
yes.
And last week you had about 2 mini Bernie Doodles that got returned.
Yes. Okay. So
Angel.
one of them, actually, when I said that it was returned, she didn't return both of them. She only returned one. And that was the one I just talked about with the family. That was my second return since October. So that's pretty good. And we found her a home. So.
Mr. Steiner.
So you asked about any additional items, and just some of the items that I did bring up, so would want to consider these. Fencing maintained to prevent any escape by the dogs. The proper care and cleanup of any excrement or, what do I want to say, waste from the animals to prevent any kind of odors coming from the property, or if it did build up, any kind of runoff. Parking on paved surface, and no more than 6 dogs at any one time.
And if I may, on that the number of dogs, I think that should all dogs, your dogs, personal dogs, and
All of the above.
not just ones for sale, because you can say, well, they're all mine, and then we'd have 6 more on top of that or something like
Okay.
that. So,
All right.
We do have concern for the dogs' welfare as well.
Yeah.
I understand.
So we don't want
Yeah.
a lot of dogs in a small area. Ms. Rector.
I would just like some clarification. Are we looking at adult dogs or just puppies, including her dogs? Or
do you deal with adult dogs at all?
Very seldom. Very seldom. Yeah. So,
And if we could refer to the portion of the ordinance that determines all the requirements of the home occupation, which is 41924.3, and then maybe some clarification if the business should grow. What is the intent of moving the business maybe to a commercial? Because then it would tend to lean towards the ordinance of becoming a kennel, and in a kennel in a residential requires 5 acres.
Well, technically, she can't have more than 6 if this is passed.
I'm just asking for clarification for her that if it becomes more of an intense use, what is, because this is a special approval, so you're permitting it with conditions, and if the use should become more intense, to give her guidance of where she would need to then move to maybe a facility, because in a residential, if you have more than those puppies and you become a kennel, it's 5 acres, 100 feet from your neighbor's property line. So there are restrictions that she would never meet as a kennel. So I just want to make sure that if it does become more an intense use, she has the permission to have it by the design of your ordinance requirements and your approval tonight. But what does she do if it becomes more intense and she can't meet these requirements?
What defines
The use
more
would have to go
intense?
away. So
The
that's
number-
what I'm saying, is that she may need some direction on that.
Is it more than 6 would be intense, more intense by definition?
If you're putting a restriction of 6, yes, but then what is the stipulation? More than 6 dogs in a week, more than 6 dogs
At
for
one
2
time.
days?
At any one time.
At one time,
Right.
yes.
And also, if I remember right, reading through this, you cannot have any employees in a home occupation, correct?
correct.
Yes.
So that would automatically be included. So if you get too big, that would automatically take you out of the home occupations anyway.
Right.
Yeah, that's per
And that's in the ordinance, that's
Yeah,
something
per
that's in that
ordinance, right.
section of the ordinance. And also that it has to be within the home and not in any other structures on site.
So maxing it at 6 dogs would address your concern about it becoming more intensive in operation?
Do we know if she has any dogs? Because Mr. Frank's comment was, Mr. Swank's comment was all dogs, even her own. So if she has a dog, that's 5 puppies at one time.
Yes, I do have dogs, yes.
How many dogs
So-
do you have?
I have 3 right now.
3,
One's
okay.
12 and he's on his last leg, but
I see where you were leading us, Jody. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I would only be able to have 3 plus my dogs, so that would be,
If we
which
limited it to 6, then yes.
at one time, it would be no problem to do that, so.
And I'm just asking to make sure these are all clarified for her and for the commission, because over 6, you may look at it more like a kennel.
Sure.
Right,
Are you clear on that point?
I am, yes.
Okay. Mr. Fritz?
I would say make it 6 dogs and don't make the difference between puppies and full-grown dogs. Just to make it easy, it'd be 6 dogs.
Oh, Tom.
Joe.
Oh, sorry, Joe.
all right.
Excuse me.
Is 6 a big enough number if she already has 3 of her own? Do you ever, like you said, you purchased all 5 puppies
I
from the
did.
one breeder?
I did, and you know, it's if I have people waiting for them, they're waiting as soon as I get home. So it would mean another trip for me, you know, out of town to get. But if this is what, you know, I'm willing to work with whatever, you know, the decision you have.
What will you do if there's overflow at any given time?
I would have to come back to you guys and ask your
No, I
permission
mean, when it
as far as-
happens, you're not just going to come here because weeks could go by.
When an overflow happens, like what do you mean? Like
If you have 7 dogs.
I think Jody wants to add something.
I would just like to give clarification for a household pet is no more than a total of 3 household pets, especially if they're 6 months or older.
yes,
So-
adult dogs. Yes.
Her 3 dogs would be, as a household pet, would be all she would be permitted to have. That's why this becomes a special use for her to be allowed to have additional dogs. So 3 puppies and 3 grown dogs, that's a decision that 6 dogs in you keep in mind, it's all within the dwelling. Other than, of course, when she has them outside. I'm just giving clarification. If you were to have 3 dogs, you would not be able to have, unless your dogs had puppies and then you were getting rid of them.
Yeah. So what do you do when an overflow situation is going to happen?
Well, first of all, I have the choice. I have the choice of how many dogs I take in. I would go, instead of getting the 5, I would get the 3. I wouldn't get as good of a deal, of course, but it's okay. It's all right. If that's what we need to do, that's fine. And I would take those 3, and then I would move in a different breed, later on in the month, and just keep it to the 6 if that's what's required. So,
Mr. Fritz.
Ms. Rector, what I heard you say was that over 6 dogs, it would then go to a kennel requirement. Is that correct?
Ordinance permits 3 household pets. So if you're over 3, 4 or more become a kennel. Yes.
Okay, I thought it was 6.
Well, you are offering to allow her to have 6.
Okay.
That's why she's here, to allow her home occupation. She has 3.
For this
and
specific
if you allow
business.
her to have 3 additional puppies, but over 4 or more would be considered a kennel by ordinance.
It's almost like saying that her 3 are her dogs and the other 3 are not her pets. I mean, it's sort of a weird
They
way to look
belong
at
to
it.
the business
These are,
Special use.
these are
Yes.
pets and these are
Yes,
business use.
that's
So
her home
maybe-
occupation part.
So maybe look at it that way. Total 6 dogs, but doesn't matter. You got 3 of your own and 3 pets. If your 12-year-old unfortunately passes, now you've got 2 and 4. So either way, you got 4 for the business then, and you got still 2 pets.
yes.
I think one of the reasons why we're asking these questions and we're getting into particulars is because there's going to be somebody in the township who says she can do it, so I can too.
I understand that.
And this is a very specific, unique business that you're running.
It
And
is.
that's kind of like what we're trying to do, is outline the parameters for that.
Yes, I understand.
Anybody have any other questions? I do appreciate that you applied through proper channels to do this. There's a lot of people who would just do it and not say a thing.
Well, I was doing it since October, and I thought I just want to be forward with everything and just be above board. So
Mr. Camperth, do you have anything to add to this?
I was just going to make note that I didn't hear a second to the motion yet.
I'm waiting for Rick to.
Well, we didn't actually make a motion.
Right, and he's
No,
clarifying what he's going to say.
These are just clear, because he said any comments. Well, what?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
We're still trying to figure out what the motion's supposed to be before we make one, so, right. And,
okay, so let's do it that way. I'll work on the motion. I'll put in these few things, and then we can talk about seconds and friendly amendments. How's that?
Sure.
So this will be the third motion out of this whole process. So the planning commission shall determine that this use for dog matchmaking home occupations shall comply with the requirements for section 400.1924.3 and the following conditions. Fencing shall be maintained in good order to prevent escape of dogs. Secondly, all excrement and waste must be cleaned at regular intervals to prevent any kinds of odors flowing to the neighbors or any runoff onto other properties. Any business parking shall be limited to parking on the lot on paved surfaces. There shall be no more than 6 dogs at any one time, and that shall include the business owner's personal pets and the puppies for the business itself. And I believe we covered most of it, so if there's maybe a second and for any friendly amendments out there.
I'll add a friendly amendment. Must comply with all governmental agency requirements for housing animals.
Okay, you making a second and that?
I'm just not seconding. I'm amending your amendment.
Okay.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Must comply with all governmental agency requirements for housing animals. That'd be county, state, township.
Are you ready for a second?
Anybody else have any thoughts?
I'll second it.
Ms. Rector, do you want to call the roll?
Mr. Steiner,
I fooled you, didn't I? Aye.
Mr. Fritz,
All right. Yes. I didn't hear my name.
Mr. Lampkowski,
Didn't I?
Aye.
Mr. Swink,
Aye.
Mr. Helm,
Aye.
Mr. Mahoney.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
I
for all the
appreciate you
detail.
so much.
And I think
Thank
you understand, again, we're not picking on you, but you are a first in the township, and we just have to make sure that all those T's and I's are taken care of.
I understand.
And
yes.
because I can sit here and say just half hour here knowing you, I don't think we'd ever have an issue. But there are those people out there, as you talked about, puppy mills, things
Yes,
like that.
yes.
There are people out there that get crazy, they get greedy, they get careless. Things do happen. So
Yes.
by putting this here today, that does say somebody else isn't just going to come in and think they can just run with it and get away with it.
Yes. And as an animal lover, I appreciate those guidelines. I appreciate those boundaries. Yes.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 8, public comment. No public comment. 9, information. Jody?
Yes, we will be having a meeting September 14th. I have a public hearing scheduled, so if you are unable to attend, please let me know as soon as possible. I know, Pat, I think you will be out, just so I can let the applicants know if we are going to be any other members short. I've been trying to give them a heads up so they know that they will have the option to defer to the next meeting. You will see I did include the sign ordinance for discussion at the next meeting. Please make your comments and bring back this packet I gave you with your comments on it. I did go through and highlight some areas that have been discussed. If anybody wants to discuss anything tonight, I did not put it on the agenda to give you time to look over some of the areas I highlighted regarding comments that have been before the commission before, or sign waivers that have been presented several times. If you have any questions or want to discuss, come in, have a meeting and go over your comments, absolutely just shoot me an email and I will make time, because this is something that we need to get some of the language at least amended, but I would like to do as much of it as one time that we possibly can. You will see I have a portion of the political signs and directed to legal to give us some guidance. I'm not sure of all the requirements or what restrictions as a township we can replace on political signs. So you'll see highlighted. If you see an area that you think you might want to discuss, definitely highlight it, because at the next meeting I would like to go over some of these sections. Other than that, have a good evening, and thank you, gentlemen, for all the work tonight.
Mr. Steiner?
Just a quick question. So looking at this, you did have some areas that are highlighted. So the highlighted areas are not new, they're not changed or anything like that. But what I do see then is the new items in red text.
Yes, you'll
So-
see, just going to section O real quick, you'll see the freestanding
Right.
signs. Red is what's there, and then red is what we've discussed, and then the yellow would be highlighted in yellow there, would be removed of the no flashing, osculating signs permitted. Other areas are highlighted would be in V, no part of the sign shall be located higher than the lowest point of the roof to the wall of the building where the sign is located. Example of that is older structures, such as where Food Town, Dollar General is on Secor and Stearns. Those all had to come for a variance. The building was existing, and the signs had to be above the roof line, so they had to come in for a variance for the signage to allow the Dollar General. There was no other place to put the sign other than above the roof line because of the structure. So those are things we might want to take a look at as well.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the sign package you put together?
I just wanted to clarify that so everybody understood the highlight versus red. So.
Mr. Camperth?
Just another thought for you to consider. The sign ordinance has been at times a difficult part of the governance of the planning commission or of the township. And it would be nice to be able to have standards in the sign ordinance that are welcome and people can comply with them and generally would be widespread throughout the township. And you would, as a planning commission, should not have to see a waiver request every time you have a meeting when they became pretty automatic over the years. So something that we've considered or talked about, at least at the law firm, is that why was this never considered a variance? Now, Jody used the word variance a couple times here just in the last 2 minutes, rather than waiver. A variance would mean that it wouldn't come to the planning commission. The applicants should comply with the ordinance standards generally across the board. If they have a difficult situation, a unique circumstances, then it should go to the BZA to seek a variance. That's just something, it would be taken off of this plate and platter and put through the normal variance review. Just a thought.
And I will agree with that. That's why I call it a variance, because it's a variance from the requirements of the ordinance, no different of anything else that's required for accessory buildings or anything, parcels, nothing that meets the requirements of the ordinance goes for a variance or a variation. I'm not sure where a sign waiver came from. I wasn't here, but I agree with it going to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Everyone within 300 feet of the perimeter of the property is notified, and those are going to be the most affected. So when we get calls or complaints such as on illuminated signs that are LED boards, those would then be restricted by the variance, and the neighbors would already have been notified. But when it comes to the Planning Commission, it does not require a public hearing. So that's the difference of a sign waiver going to the BZA presenting to you.
Okay.
So something to think about, changing it to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals would be a discussion.
Okay, commission comment? Mr. Helm?
I have nothing tonight.
Fred?
Nothing, thank you.
Nope.
Okay, I don't have anything. Mr. Steiner?
Just the September meeting, is there just one item so far or multiple or?
For the September meeting, one item, and that's why I'm going to put on the sign, so we have time to also discuss and go over that section.
Okay.
Mr. Fritz? I'm good. Mr. Camprith?
Nothing more.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone.